Welcome to RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network with your hostess, Jen Josie. Join like-minded real estate investors and accelerate your business towards greatness. You will hear step-by-step strategies for success, interviews with real estate rock stars, and we will dig deep into past projects where we bear it all, including the good, the bad, and some just plain ugly. So get excited. Here's the bestower of badassery herself, the real Jen Josie. Listener discretion is advised.
Hi, and welcome back. I'm Jen Josie, creator of RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network. Whoop, whoop. On today's episode, we have a guest that will be sharing their badassery. But before we begin, here's today's badassery bestowment, my little badass gift to you. Today's topic is hiring professionals versus DIY. One of the biggest decisions rookie house flippers face is whether to handle renovations themselves or hire actual contractors. While doing the work yourself might seem like a cost-saving approach, hiring professional contractors often proves more beneficial in the long run. Here are 5 reasons why relying on experts can improve your success and efficiency as a house flipper. Number 1, time management. Renovating a property can be a time-consuming process, especially if you're trying to balance multiple projects. Contractors equipped with a skilled team and the right tools can complete the work faster. This allows you to flip properties more quickly while minimizing holding costs like taxes, utilities, and mortgage payments. Number 2, quality work. Skilled contractors are trained professionals who specialize in various aspects of renovation. From plumbing and electrical work to structural repairs, their expertise ensures the job is done correctly the first time. Quality work helps avoid costly repairs or issues down the road that could lower the value of your flip or complicate the sale. Number 3, access to resources and discounts. Experienced contractors often have access to wholesale materials and discounts that the average house flipper wouldn't get. This can offset some of the cost of hiring them and ensure you use high quality materials, improving the overall value of the renovation. Number 4, legal compliance and safety. Renovations must comply with local building codes and regulations. Contractors are well versed in these requirements and will handle necessary permits and inspections. Their knowledge of safety standards also reduces the risk of accidents, protecting you from potential legal and financial liabilities. Number 5, focus on high-level tasks. By hiring contractors, you can focus on the strategic aspects of flipping, such as finding new deals, securing financing, and overseeing the project. Delegating hands-on work allows you to grow your flipping business rather than getting bogged down in manual labor. So, while doing the work yourself may seem like a way to save money, hiring professional contractors is a smart investment that saves time, ensures quality, and protects your project from costly mistakes. All badass flippers know it's essential to prioritize professional expertise so they can focus on the bigger picture. Now, on to today's episode of the Real Estate Investor Growth Network podcast. We have with us my friend, Brian Manley. Brian is a single-family home wholesaling and flipping expert, seasoned Google Ads marketer, and avid traveler who has closed real estate deals in more than 20 states and 100 cities across the U.S. Since 2015, he has been at the forefront of virtual wholesaling and remote flipping and has grown up in the business with some of the most recognized names in the world of real estate investing and entrepreneurship. As a sought-after leader and advisor to aspiring business builders, Brian has earned his reputation through hands-on experience and a deep understanding of what it takes to succeed in the industry. With the recent release of his best-selling book, Mentor Me, How to Find a Real Estate Investing Mentor, he has created the perfect guide for anyone looking to break free from the 9-to-5 grind and find success in the world of real estate investing. It's an honor to have him on the show, so welcome, Brian Manley.
From across the screen.
How are you? So good to see you.
I am amazing. I'm amazing. And, every time we get together, it's just good vibe, good energy. So I'm all giddy and happy to be here. Like, this is a good time.
And get a few drinks in us. We get really loud, too. I like it. So you just finished writing this great book, which I only got yesterday. So I've only gotten through part of it. But immediately I was like, oh, thank you for saying that, because the title of your book is Mentor Me, How to Find a Real Estate Investing Mentor. But it's really about presenting yourself to a mentor, which we are going to dig deep into, which I love, love, love. But first, you have some pretty amazing bullet points here. And just in Brian Manley fashion, I always ask my people who are coming on the show, hey, give me, some bullet points we could talk about. And the first one here says, shit happens twice. So we're going to get into that. But first of all, how did you get involved with real estate investing? Let's start there.
All right. So I'm going to stand up so they can take a shot. So of my t-shirt. So my t-shirt says I got fired.
And mine says salty.
And I was both of those things on the same day.
All right. So you got fired. I love this. Keep going. This is good.
Yeah. I got fired, man. And so I had to drive down to Tucson. It's like 2 hours south of Phoenix for this meeting. And the guy that I work with, they hired 3 of us to build out a new territory. And one of my joys is fixing things and building things. So I always took jobs where there was a problem so I can go into the funders to fix it. So this company hired 3 of us to build this Phoenix territory. And then one of the guys that I met, we'd been around for only about 5 or 6 months. We get called down to Tucson. I'm driving down. He and I are talking. He goes, yeah, I'm going to get there a little bit early. I said, okay. So I get down there and I'm going, so where's Jeff's car? And they're like, just come inside. And I'm like, okay. And I see the HR lady, Emily. I still remember her name. She looks like Emily too. And so I'm sitting there and Emily lets me know, today is your last day. And I understood why I didn't see the other guy. So they just fired all 3 of us. They found a guy who was more experienced, who brought a book of business, who they could pay him double, but it would still be less than what they paid the 3 of us. Good business decision. But it was like, figure it out. So, so it was pretty abrupt. Didn't see it coming. And, at that point, I'm looking at, I'm approaching 40 at that time, and I could see it on the horizon. I go, well, do I want to be a new guy again, going somewhere else where I used to have, this cache of, reputation at some other jobs and, know-how, and I would be new. And I just didn't want to be the quote unquote old guy starting over new somewhere else. It's not like, so that was my thinking though. And I didn't want to be that guy that had to come in there and just, put his head down and be quiet because now I'm on the back nine, in this space. So it was, let's figure out what do I want to do. And it took me about 2 months. Luckily, my partner, Trent Reed, actually, she got fired the day before. So we were both jobless. And so we took some time to figure out what is it that we want to do. And had tinkered around with some houses in the past. Nothing great. It's a terrible decision for me. I did it in 2008, one house, and it was a disaster. So,
did you DIY like my badassery bestowment?
I did. I DIY'd, and it was a bad idea. I DIE. It was a terrible idea. So, and I did learn. There's a story about that. So yeah, that's how it started. And it was, it was like, hey, listen, what do you want to do? And I'm, the flip or flop shows were coming on. I'm like, let's flip a house. And 3 days later, had our first house. So it was, let's just jump in both feet without really knowing what we're doing.
Wow. Now, would you recommend that to listeners out there?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So I mean, when it all was all said and done, we lost like 50K on that deal.
Wow.
And yeah. But, it's kind of blessing in a way because, had we done something and we're comfortable with it, there wouldn't have been this push. For me, it was immediately, I said, okay, we got to do another one, because trying to go back and pay 50K back from salaries, I'm looking at that and going, yeah, it's going to take a long time.
Right.
So it was, well, let's do another one because we got to get out of this hole. And so it kept me in the game, but I would have rather stayed in the game and made money.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would not recommend, does not recommend.
Well, how did this evolve into, what is it, 20, how many different, more than 20 states and 100 cities, and you do what's called virtual wholesaling and remote flipping. So tell us a little bit about your current business.
So right now we're operating. So we flip. We've reduced our footprint. We still market in flip in or wholesale in 20. I think it's like 24 states, 24 at this point in time. And then we flip and we hold, and we have rental portfolios and things like that in another 8 states. We've got some long-time contracting relationships in a couple of those, but a lot of those, what we do is we try to make sure if we're going to flip in a state, unless we have a really, really solid relationship with a reputable contractor, we're doing the lighter end stuff that we can manage ourselves because we started as flippers, right? So the first 3 years, we can tell a lot from video because our first 3 years before we ever knew what a wholesale was, we were just flipping locally in Phoenix.
Right.
So it made it real easy to hire subs, be able to look at video and tell what's right and what's not right. And then what we'll do is we'll layer, subs will tattle on each other. And so we kind of get multiple sets of eyes on the job throughout so that we can make sure everybody's doing the same thing. But we do all that. We do some creative finance. We hold for rentals. We do small multis, moving in the multi space. And it's just been a blast. But if we let really the deal and the numbers dictate what we do with that property.
So I laugh because you said that the subs were tattling on each other because I was a middle school teacher for 16 years and I thought, yay, my babysitting days are done. But then I started posting, just like the house rules when they are in there, if one of my lenders is walking on site, music is turned off, things like this. But what I didn't realize is that they started tattletaling each other. They left some Popeyes on the kitchen counter in here, so you better, it wasn't me, it was these. Anyway, so yes, I laugh because that is the business these days. So one of the things that you do, which I love because we've hung out in a couple different places, is you travel and you are just like, you have such an adventure bug to you and you'll go someplace and then figure it out when you get there. So I love that. How do you pay for those things?
So rents, and then when I can do some business there, company cards and write-offs. Most of the stuff, believe it or not, I don't really try to pay for out of profits. It's, can I do some business while I'm there?
Okay.
Or it's a yield from like rent. So I just got upgraded to the highest thing on American again. So I get great flights. I get upgraded. They sent me on first class again last night, which is fantastic. But a lot of it is just, I'm a points king. Like I think I've got like 1 million of them somewhere to use right now because all of my business expenses were running on the same card. They give me airline points and it's, hey, let's get in the win. So, but that's really it. And so now I think I've just crossed my 43rd or 44th country. So yeah, if I can get in the wind, whenever there's an opportunity, I'm gone.
I love that. And I was lobbing this question to you because I thought it was mostly from rents, but you took it even a step further by saying, I try to not even touch the rents coming in from all your rental properties, but you actually try to do business in those areas as well. So I was not expecting that, but that is amazing. So, all right. I am ready to hear about this first bullet point here, which is shit happens twice. And it's like there's space between it. Shit happens, period. Space, twice, period. Yeah. So what is this bullet point?
Dude, so check this out. When I first started to write this book, I just had one of those days. You know what I'm talking about, right? We couldn't get any contractors to show up at this house. And it was like 5 days and it's hot. I think it's down like in Florida. It was in Georgia. And nobody had come. And then finally, one of the contractors just tells us, there's shit all over the walls. So nobody would go in the house. It didn't have an HVAC. Somebody stole the HVAC. And then there was this divorcing couple. I don't know if it was a Johnny Depp Heard thing going on or what, but there was shit all over the walls. So that day,
is that because she shit the bed?
You know what I mean? Yes. And so
that took me a second.
I was like, I'm writing this down because I really had questions. I was like, wait, what? And so we don't know what happened. So fast forward full circle, the book got ready to get published last week, right? It's ready to go. Last week, I get pictures of a house with shit on the walls, and they wrote the lady's name in shit. So just last week, it says Kim. I posted it on Facebook, but Kim made somebody mad. And so they wrote Kim on the walls, and maybe it's people stuff. I don't know. But I'm like, this is just what we deal with, and, nobody gets to get away with it, get away from it. So one of the things I think is real important for new folks to know is you go out and you have a bad day, you have things going wrong, and everybody does. I don't know a single person that's not dealing with just chaos. But we all think ours, we see it through our lens. And the big point about this book is that your lens is what's problematic a lot of times. It's not what's around. It's not information available. It's just you got a bad lens. And, I got shit twice. It's just par for the course. You don't.
That story's in the opening section of this book here, because I did read that. So as soon as you started saying it, I was like, okay, now I see how this works here. So, there are some wild things when you are in this business. So for us promoting, I was telling you before we hit play or record that my avatar is the person who's trying to get out of the 9-to-5 grind. And here we are talking about Kim written in shit on the wall. Like, welcome to real estate. Yay.
Well, I did have one job where I think I would have rather clean shit off the walls and do that job. So I will tell you that, I hated this job. It was my avatar is, I love people who are trying to break away. Like this logo up is Cubicle Mutiny. It's people who want to get out of the cube, right? Because I remember I had a job where I sat in a little office, and Sundays, 6:00, I got the Mondays, Sunday night. And for about a year and a half, I was miserable.
Yes.
And most of my career, I've been remote or working outside sales. So this was the one job where they wanted me in this office, and I was like, I'm going to chew my arm off and get away. Right? It was that bad. So I love that that's your audience, and that just anything that I can pour into them to help them see that freedom. I live for that.
So let's get into just entrepreneurship, because I also feel like your book is for any type of business, and finding a mentor that fits well with you, a mentor or a coach, if we use that dirty word coach. But entrepreneurship, one of your bullet points is talking about that it's a fraternity, and it respects those who are willing to walk through the fire. So you and I met at part of a mastermind group, outstanding group, and it is really, you're paying for proximity a lot of times, and that proximity turns into more business, which is, and connections, and just, hey, I'm going to this place, who we know here, and you have people all over the place. So tell me why you say entrepreneurship is like a fraternity and walking through fire.
It's one of those things that I think that when real recognize real, right? Like somebody who's out there and doing it, they're already vetted. When we met in this group where we know everybody's vetted to be there. But I think one of the reasons I really wanted to make sure I mentioned that was a lot of times when people are new, they have no idea what the people who've achieved what they're desiring have gone through. And, somebody like you calls me and says, hey, Brian, I need a favor. What do you need? I know you're not going to waste my time. I know you understand the value of time. I know you've been through some shit and survived it, came on the other end, because I don't know anybody who hasn't. And so I think there's a certain level of respect. Like when I was in sales, I became a GM, and I always thought I was entrepreneurial because I had a budget. I had to figure things out. I ran, data and analytics and all that stuff. It is not the same.
Right.
And I remember I used to get offended when I wasn't included in entrepreneur conversations as a salesperson, because I thought, well, that's what I do. And it's not. And so it's not at all. And 50% of my day is figuring out problems that other people created, but that impact me, and I have to navigate them. It's not even the business. It's not getting your ship sunk by something somebody else created. So I think when I look at somebody who's having any degree of success, I know they've had days where they weren't sure they can make payroll, where they got sick and money stopped, when they had months delay, there was a cash crunch, something burned down. I know that happened because every single person I've talked to has that. And so there's a certain amount of respect I give automatically when I know you've gone out and done something and dug it out, got out the mud. I just respect it.
Yeah, huge. And also your networking skills, because you are, Well, of course, I was completely drawn to you, not only just because you're good looks, but man, we can laugh our asses off together. But, putting yourself in those places, and I've coached students. I used to work with Tariq El Musa, and he had a coaching program. And I would always say, it's not like going to a RIA meeting. Okay. So if you're at a RIA meeting and the speaker is talking about something that you don't care about, it's not what the speaker is talking about. It's the people who's sitting at your table who you want to connect with. And I just think that is huge, because that person on stage isn't going to be helping you. You want people who are on your level. And I love how you called it a fraternity, because it really is. And especially real estate investing, for example, because one of those things, I can remember when I first quit corporate America, I was like, I'm turning off my alarm clock. Yeah. And people are like, oh, okay, Jen, you're going to be waking up 2 hours earlier and becoming an entrepreneur. And it was very lonely in the beginning. And so I had to find my people. I created an accountability group. We've been going, goodness, 6 or 7 years strong now. We meet every other Thursday, and some of the same people are in that group. And how did you kind of create your fraternity of people around you?
I'll tell you, when you say that, I'd forgotten that, Jen, until you just say that, how lonely it got, and even still sometimes, without these groups, it is. But so when we first started out, I reached out to quite a few people, and some were receptive. Some maybe I was clumsily reaching out, like what I'm advising not to do in my book. Maybe I was that guy. But what happened? So after a couple of years, most of the people we'd reached out to learn from, we had surpassed them. We were doing more business than they were, and there was no roadmap on what to do next. And so the problems that I was having, nobody cared and nobody understood them. And it was just going it alone. So I saw a Facebook ad, and I decided I need to meet other people. I just didn't know how. I remember I spoke at the RIA, and the lady tells me, you'll never be able to do business outside of the state, in rentals. And I'm like, okay, all of these naysayers. And so I saw this ad, and I drove to California, and it was my first introduction to like what had a mastermind component. I'd never heard of it. I didn't know anything about it. And that's how I found them. And I didn't even care what I was going to learn. I just had gotten lonely. Like, yes. I just gotten lonely in the space. I'm like, who can I talk to about nonsense? And, and who won't go stop complaining, life's good. And I'm like, not always, it's, I used to have one job and I have a bunch. Right.
Yes.
And so that's what happened. And I drove out there without a plan. I saw, I'll just go on the fly. I didn't have a hotel. It was like, oh, this is tomorrow. And I just drove to Cali. And I figured it out when I got there. And that's really how I broke into this whole space, to be able to meet people like you and everything else. It was just loneliness and a Facebook ad timed right.
I love it. And thankful to you, because I got to meet you. And so I'm glad you reached out and found the mastermind, because then you and I connected. So I want to dive into this book. I'm telling you, I literally got it yesterday, and I couldn't put it down, because I'm like, oh, he's saying all the stuff I've always wanted to say. And, people don't know how to really present themselves to a possible mentor or a coach. And you really focus on the power of giving first. So explain that portion as we start getting into the book stuff here.
Sure. So I think one thing that people are completely unaware of is how many people, if you make a post in a Facebook group and they go, Jen's advice was amazing, already before you post it, you've probably sat there and thought about it. Do I want to hit send? Because the deluge of 25 inboxes is coming right after you share and post it.
Yep.
No individual person there thinks about the other 24 people that are also sending that same message, right? They think, oh, she's great, I love her, and I'm going to reach out. And each time you do that, it's, you share, you get people who just are gimme. And they don't know how many times that's happened to you in a week or a month. And so the idea was that if you don't come and lead with offering some sort of value, you just get lumped in with the other 100 people that month who all are reaching out in the same way, and all are essentially trying to give me 100 additional jobs that I didn't interview for.
Yep.
Right. And nobody wants to just go out and do work that they weren't looking for. So that's the whole idea of that, is when you give first, you position yourself to come from a place of adding value versus hat in hand and expecting the kindness of a stranger to reach out and help you when you haven't been to the fraternity and you're not demonstrating that you're willing to go out and do the work.
Exactly. And, what are some examples, though, that you can offer to a mentor?
You mean like if you're somebody who's brand new and what can I offer you to get? I think the first thing to do is be a stalker, right? Like, I'm not ashamed of it. Hey, listen, call the digital police on me, right? But you know, I think one of the things you do, so I would get messages where people go, "Hey, are you in real estate?" And I'm going, "Did you even open my page?" Right? Like, delete, like I'm leaving you on red, right? So I think the first thing that you want to do is look and see what somebody's doing. Right? If I know somebody's building, you're probably going to tell a story about a bad contractor that you had. You're probably going to tell a story about, you know, a realtor that you had a problem with. Every person that you know and meet is in some way your superior. They know something you don't. Yeah. They're better at something than you. Every single one, even the jerks that we don't like, right? They've got something to offer, right? You just got to decide whether or not you want to get past the jerkiness, but they've got something, right? So if I look and I see somebody's a builder and they're having problems with a sub, who do I know in my network that has a reliable contractor, right? Hey, listen, and I'm going to offer that up to you. I'm going to vet them first. I'm not going to make you tell me how I can be valuable. I'm going to say, all right, hey, I saw that you had such and such project going. You run into a hiccup. My cousin lives here. He does this, and this. I thought maybe you could use that. Send. Be polite, open up, and just give. It doesn't cost you anything. That's free. Right? You're trying to find somebody, you want to scout an area and I live there. I got to go get in your car and drive around. That's free.
Yep.
And the thing is what most people aren't willing to do is they want free from us, but aren't willing to do free on their end to give. So and I don't even think they're aware.
So well said. And I have two examples. So I can remember one time we purchased a townhome. I loved flipping condos and townhomes, no exterior to worry about. And this one had a lot of stuff left in it. And I had a vanity light that I was going to swap out. And there was a newer student in the area and said, "Hey, I have my electrician's license. Can I swap out that light for you? And I also have a truck. I can help haul away some of that stuff." And I was like, "Oh my gosh." And he became a dear friend. His name is Blaze. I love him. And he literally helped load up stuff, hauled it away for me, and then was able to ask me a gazillion questions. He got on-site experience and to see what he's going to be dealing with, because it's not buying a house off the MLS that isn't, turnkey, it's a different boat. So that was a great one. And then a second example, I was renovating a quad that we were going to short-term rent, and I had 4 apartments full of furniture that I had to put together. And so I just said, "Hey, anybody out there want to come over and help me put together furniture? I have beer." But from there, it was a whole bunch of newer folks that came over, and they were helping to put beds together, put the mattress, make the beds. It was awesome. We had a great time. We got really drunk, but a lot of lessons were learned in that for them as well. And I really, truly appreciated their help. So I'm sorry, I went off on a tangent there, but that.
No, that's not a tangent. I'm shaking my head like not. Yeah.
I absolutely love that. So another part of the book here, you use, it's not GTL, which is Gym Tan Laundry, but you use GTS. So tell us your little pet peeve of people, and you turn to them and say GTS. So what does that mean?
GTS means Google that shit, man. Listen. Don't call me and ask me what's ARV. Right? Google that shit, right? Like, listen, I gave a keynote last year at a mastermind, and that was, I think that's the one thing everybody remembers the most, because that's actually in our company documents, right? Like when you get hired here, GTS is in your training, right? Don't come to me and ask me, Google that shit. If it's something simple and easy, because like on a more serious note, if you don't even do the work to open free Google, you're telling me you're going to be a nightmare to deal with.
Yes.
You're not going to think. You're not going to be proactive.
A time suck is what you called them.
And then, you know what? I'm going to feel horrible because your life doesn't change. And I'm pouring into you, but you just don't have it in you to go and do that thing. And you just don't have it in you. If you won't Google, you're definitely not scrubbing shit off the wall. I put it like this. So if somebody's broken down on the side of the road, right, and they have a sign, please help, right? If you're just sitting there, I'm zooming right by my little reliable electric car, right? You're just going to be sitting over there, right? Now, if I see you on the side of the road pushing your car, it's hot and you're sweating and you're in motion, I'm 100 times more likely to help you because you're showing you're already willing to help yourself. But if you're sitting there, you want me to, what does it look like for me to get out and push a car you're sitting in? Like, I'm not doing it for you. And that's what you're doing when you reach out and ask me, what's ARV? GTS. That's what you're going to get, or I'm going to leave you on red. And that's just, it's a pet peeve of mine.
Yes. I mean, you can lead a horse to water, the old saying there, but what are some other things in this book? Because I can't wait to keep reading through this, but what are some more pointers for people who are just starting out to literally how to find the best mentor?
Yeah. So one of the things I'll go into is like, I kind of differentiate between a coach and a mentor, right? And, one of the things is a mentor, that's more of a organic, develops over time. Some people might do paid mentorship, but really when I think about mentorship, I think we form a relationship like you and Blaze, and there's, over time you spend time together, and the return that you get from pouring into that it's an exponential return versus what you pour. And he helped that one time and it turned into how many tens of thousands would have had to pay you for that time otherwise, right? But it's recognizing that, you're going to pay, life has tuition, right? You're going to pay with time, you're going to pay with money. And when when you only have one, that's what you use, right? So you can have programs that come out when somebody's fairly new, just recognize your growth. You'll have different types of mentors for different areas of life, even different areas of real estate. If you're looking at getting into flipping, don't go to somebody who's doing, self-storage.
Yeah, or
right?
Short-term rentals, yes.
Short-term rental, right? And people don't know that. When they go and they say, help me get started, I go, would you go to a pilot and say, tell me how to fly a plane, right? It's a long process, not an email, not one call. It's a long process. And then you got to know what type of thing you want to do. So I think the most important thing for you is just do some research and figure out. There's people who go directly into multifamily. There's people who, like you said, all they do is Airbnb, short-term rental. There are people who get into boutique hotels. There are people who just wholesale. There's so many different things that you can get into. So I think the very first thing you need to do is know what it is you're looking for. And then that narrows down who you would approach, because you can't come and ask me about Airbnb. I don't do it. And you've shown me you've not looked or followed at all because I don't know anything about Airbnb. So I think that's a big is just do a little bit of research. And one of the resources I use for that, it's interesting you mentioned Tarek. The very first course I went to there was a Tarek Christina coaching thing or something that was traveling around. And when I went to go and research it to see if it was legit, I discovered Bigger Pockets. Oh. And that's how I got started. I thought Bigger Pockets was like a group of like a handful of people. And then I discovered there's I don't know, a million people on it, all giving away free advice. And I always tell people that when they're brand new, go there first.
Yep.
And then start to speak a little bit of the language so that you can approach a Jen and look like somebody she should give her time to. But I think that's probably one of the biggest things people should do.
Excellent advice. And as you're discussing all this, I had just a couple my former students pop into my head. How do you handle students that the mentee, shall we say, who just bounces from one coaching program to the next coaching program to the next coaching program? I don't know how to deal with people like that who, you've got to take massive action. And there is a group of people that now they're doing Pace Morby stuff. Now they're doing this, and they keep joining these different groups, but they haven't even done a deal yet. So it's not those people are not. It's not that they haven't found the right mentor. It's something within them. So what would be a message that you would give to those type of students?
All of it works, but you have to. You know who they were. You know what they remind me of? So I had a stint when I was super, super broke and desperate to make money and in network marketing. And there were people who would go from network marketing opportunity to network marketing opportunity. And they always thought they just hadn't found the right thing. And I think somewhere in that is people think if they're in the right place at the right time, success just happens. Some people think the more I pay, the more apt I am to be successful.
Yes.
Neither of those things are true. And I think they don't realize that. I think they feel like they've missed their opportunity in their window, and it's not. But when they get hard, they don't realize hard is part of it. And if you switch the other thing, it's going to have its hard. And you switch another thing, and it's going to have its hard. I always want to try new things. Right now, I'm learning some AI stuff, and it's hard. I don't want to beat my head on the wall because I'm like, I hate this, right? But I know it's hard as part of it, right? So, I think they just don't, because what's attractive is selling the highlight that people, I think, don't realize. Part of the journey is the hard. And you don't get around it, which is why there's this fraternity, because we all know you don't get to get around it. And jumping around, they all work if you do. I have to sometimes go in masterminds and discipline myself because I hear all the amazing things people are doing. And I go, I want to do that too, because they all sound amazing and people are doing all these different things. And I just know I can't do them all. Right.
Huge. And thank you for saying that, because it is a huge frustration for me, because I'm like you mentioned earlier, I'm pouring myself into this person and they're just not getting it. And so I'm glad you also have a similar perspective. So to wrap up this part of the podcast here, where are good places for people who are just starting out to find, say, a coaching program? And I'll preface with, I did Fortune Builders, which I am extremely grateful for. The price tag was like a punch in the gut. I went, and I paid the lowest one, which is, I think, either $30,000 or $35,000. But it was one of those things where it was so painful for me to, put that on a couple credit cards, actually, and to go through it, that it was burning the boats. There was no way I was going to go back if I was going to invest that much into it. And, but there's so many of these gurus out there that are a dime a dozen who say, give me your money. You're going to have a flip within 6 months. So how should the listeners find a coaching program that's going to work best for them?
Sure. So, one of the things I wanted to name the book is How to Find a Real Estate Investing Mentor, for SEO to be easy to find, and then subtitle the subtitle, and not get snake bit.
Not get snake bit.
Yeah, because I really wanted to say that because, Jen, so I know a guy. Let me tell you how to smell BS. So I knew a guy that told people he had flipped 10,000 properties in 8 years, right? No team to speak of, no. And he was also teaching people, neurolinguistic programming, and this guy, and he was just, everybody knew he was a crowd. I'm like, I did the math on 10,000. I talk about him in the book. And I go, all right, let's just say over 10 years, you did 1,000 a year. You did 83 a month or so, for solo or without a team of, I know people who do several hundred and they have a team of like 60 people.
Right.
So the first thing is outlandish claims, right? Let's stay away from outlandish claims. If somebody doesn't have an organization, it's hard to do more than about 5 or 6 a month by yourself if we're talking about single family homes, because there's just so many things that go wrong with that. It's easier if you're doing land or something like that. But the other thing I tell people to look for, when somebody's coaching you and they're on the newer end and not a known commodity, ask for HUD statements. A lot of guys I knew, they're coaching stuff that, I'd been around some guys that wanted me to help them do some coaching, and they were teaching stuff that worked 5 years ago.
Right.
This space moves fast, right? So, if someone is offended by you asking for a HUD or proof of recent, or, either there's too much ego for that to be healthy for you to interact with anyway, or there's something that they can't show. If you ask me to prove what I'm doing, I'll prove it to you, right? If I'm asking for money from you. So I think the first thing is to make sure that the people are still current. They're doing what you do. Don't come to me and say, teach me, and you want to get in self-storage. I'll have you bankrupt. Don't listen to me. I don't know what I'm doing, right? And then watch them, and then see how people, I see when you go in groups, see how people defer, or the people in groups, who they listen to. See who other people, and that's how you get a team, because a lot of people will chime in and they don't know what they're talking about. I knew people who did one deal and they start coaching. True story. Yeah. Right. They have some value to offer somebody who's done none, but they shouldn't be taking your money acting like a coach, right? So I think when you go in groups, it's the easiest free resource. Look for reviews. Like I said, on Bigger Pockets, it's huge. People will blast you out in there if you're not any good.
Yep.
And don't make the mistake of thinking that because you see somebody over and over and over, that means they're going to be best for you or that they're the best coach. That just means they have the best marketing and the budget to get in front of you. So I think talk to somebody, see if they resonate with you, because there's some guys that know things I would want to know, but I just probably couldn't be in a room with them. I don't like them. so, so it's important also to, I think, to get around people that you like and somebody who's doing it. One of the reasons I didn't offer a program is I never wanted money to be the reason I'd offer the coaching program. And I want to be able to tell somebody to F off, I don't like you. And I didn't want to do it before I got to a space where I didn't need your money. So if I decide to go and coach somebody right now, it's just because I want to coach. And now I'm at a space where I want fulfillment. But somebody who's driven by the money, they want all their money up front. Be careful of that.
Yes.
Because I've seen too many stories of people got money and disappeared. And so I would say also ask people about what it looks like when we do get together. How often do I get to talk to you? How accessible are you going to be? Is this, hey, I just get 2 calls a month and that's it? Or if I got a deal and I need real-time advice, are you going to help me out? Can I pay you over time so there's incentive for you to continue to show up and offer me value versus I pay you this painful amount of money for me, which might not be a lot to you, but it hurts me, and then you disappear. So I think just safeguarding yourself in those ways, I think you can't go wrong.
I love the whole background check of things. And well, let me see your most recent HUD, because we're in a time in real estate where market is shifting a little bit. I personally am probably not going to flip any more houses. I'm now looking to do more long or short-term rentals. And because that's a great thing about real estate, is because you can shift all the time. But a lot of these coaches, these gurus, as I call them, they are like, shit, the market has changed. I'm not flipping as many houses right now. Let me make money coaching. So that is really, really important. And I do love that you said that. So Brian, thank you for that. And you heard me at the beginning of this podcast give a badassery bestowment, a little nugget for the audience. Do you have a badassery bestowment you can share with the listeners?
You know what? I do. Hold on. And by the way, I love the name Badassery Bestowment. So that's going to be, guess what? Along with GTS, Badassery Bestowment is going to be part of my company's lexicon now.
I love it.
We are absolutely going to do that. But
well, I trademarked, I am the bestower of badassery. I paid good money for that shit. So
oh, really?
I use as much as I can. So, all right. All right. So what is your badassery bestowment?
The biggest thing is that the number one thing, there's no endpoint. There is no endpoint. So I think what you need to do is actively enjoy the journey of becoming what you're going to become. I used to think you'd hit a number and it felt different, and it doesn't.
Yes.
And then you hit another number and it doesn't. But I've enjoyed all the crazy stories, like the contractor that got kidnapped by his wife's criminal family. I'll tell you about that one later. But the journey and even the problems, that's just part of it. And I think what happens with people, to your point you were talking about earlier, where people jump from thing to thing to thing, is they think hard means something's going wrong.
Yes.
And that's not it at all. Every single one of the journeys includes hard. And so if you're a person who enjoys figuring things out, if you're resilient, you're a person who goes, okay, I'll still get through it. And hard's going to come. It's not a matter of if. The hard's going to come. You go, man, how am I better after having experienced that? What did I learn? And then one of the things that makes entrepreneurship lonely is because as you develop these problem solving skills and as you go through these different things, it changes you and you become a different person.
Yes.
And that's the joy in this whole thing. I don't think you're ever going to hit a number that makes you feel like, I've arrived, I've made it. You think you will, but once you get there, you've changed so much as a person to get there that the thing that you thought would make you happy would have made the old you happy, but you're not the old you anymore. So enjoy the journey.
There is no end point. I love that. Well, Brian, thank you so much. And how can the listeners find your book?
You can go on Amazon and you can type Brian Manley. Now, be careful because there's another book, Brian, below it. And it's Brian's First Man. That's not me. And it is what you think. So don't do that one. It's what you think. Yes.
Well, I think it is a great book. I, originally saw the title and was like, oh, it's just by going to RIAs and you find someone who can coach you. But no, it's really that power of giving first, I think is such a valuable lesson. And as someone who has been in the coaching space, I think that is just fantastic. And there's so much more beyond that in the book and, discovering your niche and all of that. So go check it out. It is Mentor Me, How to Find a Real Estate Investing Mentor by Brian Manley. And you can just type in Brian Manley in Amazon and check it out. And it is a very well-priced book as well. And you just made a post today. What is the proceeds going to? Are you able to share that?
Yes,
okay.
Yeah. So there's this organization. So I'll tell you, can I tell you like my 2-minute coffee story and how
Please.
I started? So years and years ago, I was in pharmaceutical sales. I was making good money. I had a couple of houses, company cars, expense accounts, all that stuff. I lost my job, blew my ACL out, relationship ended all in like the same month, right? I had 9 months of living expenses saved up, so I thought I'd be fine. But this is after the great meltdown. Yeah. And I found myself months and months and months later still out of work, right? And so I had my cable turned off, heater was turned off, all those things. But I used to go to Starbucks to just try to feel normal because I didn't have internet. So I would go there and try to work and just try different entrepreneur ideas from Starbucks. And what I would do is I would save my cup because Starbucks had 50 cents refills. And, I didn't have the $2.68 to waste every day to get this cup of coffee, right? This is a hard fall.
Yes.
And, I would save my cup, rinse it out and, use it the next day so I could just spend 50 cents. And this one day I'm in line, it's people getting ready to go to work, the 9 to 5 I wish I had because I had no income coming in. And these people are all nicely dressed and I'm going up to the register and my card gets declined. And for 54 cents.
Wow.
And the girl standing there, the young barista behind it, she gave me this quick look like she recognized I was mortified. And this line's behind me. And she just gives me the coffee.
Wow.
And dude, I never forgot. I looked later on my phone and I had 16 cents in my checking account and a penny in my savings. And she gave me that cup of coffee. And fast forward, I'd done some things with network marketing stuff, made a little bit of money. And I had maybe like $50, $60 in my account. And I don't even know how I found Kiva. But what they do is they do micro lending in third world and developing countries to entrepreneurs that have a 98% repayment rate. And people who are doing things as simple as trying to get a goat in their village so that, or a mule so they don't have to spend 6 hours a day going to get water and back. Think about the production hours lost of people having to go out and all the young people, they can't go to school because they have to spend 6 hours walking back and forth to get water a day, right? And what that does to the trajectory of their lives. So I discovered this thing and they had, you could do loans as little as $25. So even though I only had like $60 to my name, I loaned $25 to somebody and I felt empowered. I felt valuable. I felt like I could still do some good and matter. Even though by US standards, I was essentially destitute. And it just gave me a sense of purpose and value. And I've been lending ever since. And so the book, I don't even care if I make my money back. The proceeds from the book are going to Kiva. And all I'm doing is just doing microloans. So every time somebody buys a book, I'm just putting it in the microloan fund and just continuing to be, try to be a blessing to those folks that just weren't lucky enough to be born in a place with systems like ours.
Wow. That is lovely. And how do you spell Kiva?
Kiva, kiva.org.
kiva.org. What an amazing organization. I love that. Thank you for sharing that, Brian. We are going to go into the second part of the podcast here, which is what makes Brian Manley a badass. And I use the acronym BADASS, and the first letter is B for book. What is a book that's made a huge difference in your life?
Okay, Rich Dad doesn't count, even though that counts.
The Purple Bible.
Yeah, that one. But the 4-Hour Work Week.
Yes.
So my entire business is built off of Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Work Week. That how do you be location independent? How do you not wait until you're 65 to think you're going to enjoy life and travel? When I don't know any people, I didn't know my whole life any retired people who are flying around and enjoying life. And so that was the number one book that changed how I looked at things. That you mean I don't have to be in a place to earn money. I don't have to do all the work myself. I can create automations. And this is before all these AI tools and things existed. So my entire business, when I finally, I had an idea, but I didn't know what the business was going to be. But I always had this in the back of my mind. When I start something, this is how it's going to be structured. So everything that I've done from, in this space was rooted in the philosophies that 4-Hour Work Week were to be location independent. And, in time independence is the new wealth. And that was my goal.
Huge. Love it. Tim Ferriss. You guys got to check it out if you haven't read that yet. All right. The first A in Badass is for advice. You've given us amazing advice, but what's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Not to take things so personally, right? That most people that do things that we don't like, they've done it in spite of us, not to spite us.
Yes.
They're not even thinking about us. And I remember I used to be the aggrieved, and somebody did something and it was a front, and I was bothered by it, and they had no idea. And, because we're central to our story, we think we're central to the story, but everybody else is central to their own. And it really helped me preserve a lot of relationships and not begrudge people who might have done things that I interpreted one way, because it was just not with me in mind. And I've managed most of my friendships. I got a bunch of friends of 30 plus years, because I know that anytime that somebody does something I take offense at, it's usually not at me.
Like showing up 45 minutes late to a cigar bar?
Yeah, he was at me. That dude. FTD. That dude.
FTD. All right. Moving on here. The D in Badass is for drive. What drives you to be successful?
Oh man. You know what? I really think somewhere inside there's some feeling of maybe not good enough in some regard. Maybe testing. So when I was growing up in school, I was in gifted classes and gifted programs, right? And there was always expectation, but nobody pushed me. They just thought, hey, I'd do things. And I haven't really done a whole lot of things that I found really impressive. And I think I'm still trying to impress myself. And I don't know what that's rooted in. But I think the driver is, I think there's a feeling that I'm going to arrive to one day that I haven't got to yet. And maybe that's elusive. Maybe there's no end point for that either.
Right. Wow.
But I think there might be some stuff I should lay on the couch, talk to somebody about. No.
Is it in an office or is it a couch in a bedroom? I'm just kidding.
You know what?
We just took a totally left turn here. All right, moving on, staying focused here. The second A in Badass is for aspiration. I'm a big goal setter. So what is a goal you are currently working on?
You know what? I'm learning. So there's two things. So just getting proficient. So I've been running Google ads myself for like 8 years, and people, come and ask me to run it for them and all that stuff. And I typically don't do it, but I would do that in the AI space. And I love building efficiencies and things like that. And right now I feel like of 100 rung ladder, I'm not even on rung one. The more I learn, the more I realize I don't know anything.
Right.
And I'm always trying to stay ahead of the curve. That's my job as CEO of my business, is look for opportunities and icebergs that might sink us. And just from the things that I've learned so far, I see how there's somebody who wanted to target me and put me out of business in 3 years. If I don't start learning some of these tools, I can't keep up.
That's true.
And so aspirationally right now, I'm looking at it and go, I don't want to be a dinosaur. And I think that can happen really, really fast. So I want to become, somebody who people can go to and say, I can be like the nerds in the movies. Like, something's about to blow up. And then the nerd always, he can't fight, but he hacks and he, deactivates the bomb from afar. I want to be that guy. Right. That, and then move into, multifamily, which I started to before the interest rates start getting wonky. So those are the two things professionally right now that I really am excited about.
Yeah, that AI stuff, it is all over the place and it's constantly changing, and using the word you said before, hard, and accepting the hard and keep pushing through it. All right. The first S in Badass is for systems. What systems do you have in place to help you achieve success?
So I think one of the first things I want people to think about is just accountability, right? I don't know if a mastermind is considered a system, but if you're going it along and you're in the 9 to 5, the support that you get is not going to be from the other people at your 9 to 5.
Right.
They're not going to be friends. The first thing that I think you need to have is somebody who has similar aspirations and get involved in a group. And I think a network is part of a system. A network of people want to do, even if you're all just online. I think digging down to that other tools that I have. I use some AI on things like evaluations. What you monitor grows, right? What you pay attention to grows. So If you are somebody who's dabbling and need to keep track of leads, things like that, at the very least, get yourself a CRM, right? And really understand what's important to it. How quickly you do things matters just as much as that you do them. That's one of the things I determined, a few months back where we were getting hundreds of leads in and converting low. And I realized our time to lead initial contact was way too long, right? So track what you're doing every single day. A CRM is one, using AI tools I use one called Otter, which automatically enters every single one of our meetings and records a transcript without us having to do work. So that if somebody forgets something, there's proof that this was actually said. But we also use it for call evaluations. So where my executive assistant used to have to spend hours every week grading, multiple calls. Now she just drops them in there. It gives a transcript in 2 minutes, as well as highlights, questions that were asked. And then she just compares those against our grading sheet. So that's a really, really awesome tool that we use there. Zapier is, of course, one. But and then one of the other ones, I think, for a newer person, get yourself a website. They're cheap. There are a bunch of providers now. I'm not plugging them, but I've used Carrot for years because you can go on at the time, you can get a site for like 49 cents, but it just adds credibility. And it's something that can capture leads while you're at work.
Yes.
The one thing you want to start early on is thinking about, how do you want this to end? For me, I knew I wanted to move myself out of the seat of doing all the jobs. So when you start out, you're going to do that, but give yourself opportunities early on to let tools do some of the work. Let it capture the information for you. I use an AI chatbot and an AI voice rep, so it can talk to people whenever somebody calls and they don't get a person and I don't have to pay them. So those are some of the tools and systems you use right now. Everything for me is built around not having to do it.
Which is excellent. And
yeah.
I also want to tack on to get a website, because it's a credibility for people that you're looking to do business with, but also you can get away from the Gmail account, because that's the other thing with me that screams rookie when I'm working with people, is that it's like, if it's a lender and they're like, number one lender in America at gmail.com, I just don't think that they're legit. Well, that definitely would not be legit, but having that email address with your business name on there also builds credibility as well. I just wanted to tack that on there. So excellent.
It's huge, because let me tell you, I can't tell you how many deals we've gotten because people were just, they all go and look. When they talk to me, they don't know that it's a website I paid $49 for. And take it a step further, go get a BBB registration. It's $48 or something a month, because older people think the BBB is government run, and they look at it and they go, oh, it's got a BBB rating. I've gotten so many deals because people go and look at that. Oh, BBB in a website, and they don't know it's a mass copy website. So I'm glad you picked up on that and said that.
Absolutely. All right. I could talk to you all day, and it is Friday, so we should be drinking shortly here. But to wrap up this podcast, the final S in badass is for success. What does success mean to Brian Manley?
Jen, I wanted to fight you when I saw that, because I really had to think. I was punching the air. I really was. I was on the plane looking at it. I was like, I can't punch the air though. The FAA, I'll get like on the no-fly list. So I was like, what does it mean? And I really had to think about it. So at this stage for me, it's significance, right? It's significance. They were saying, somebody said to me, at the end of the game, the king and the pawn go in the same box, and I used to think, but it's true. At the end, we all one point in day. So it's, what do we matter to ourselves while we're here? Because that legacy is forgotten in a generation or two. So it was significance, and it's just the becoming, and to feel good, because having things and waking up and feeling terrible about who you are and where you are and what your journey was makes it all worthless. So it's just to reduce the negative emotions. Like I said, it stems from that, like having frustrated potential. I know I could do this. I believe I could. And when you don't live your potential, it makes you envious and jealous of other people. You look at them and you go, well, that should be me. And there's part of you knows it's because you're not doing what you should be. And then just the ability to let go of other people and minimize their ability to control my life and my outcomes. I just wanted to be free. My entire journey was, I didn't like being told what to do at 9 to 5, especially when I was doing a hell of a job my way. And I was just hard headed, and it was just to be free. And I think for me, that's the biggest thing, to have significance and be free during the day and feel good about those two things.
Absolutely. Well, I think that is a great way to wrap this up. And you are a significant being to me, and I do appreciate your time. I know you're a busy man, and coming on the show today and always have a great laugh with you. And I'm so very impressed with what you are giving back to our communities, our world, people all over the place, and buying goats for villages and things like that. And then your book, you want to make sure you all check it out at Amazon.com. I would just type in Brian Manley, Manley, and get his book today. It's affordable, and the proceeds are going to great places. And I just appreciate your time today, Brian. This has been amazing. Thank you for being on the show today.
It has, Jen. I just love you to death. And
I love you more.
I love you more. How's that?
Well, thank you so much. And that is all. Thank you for listening. And we will catch you on the next episode. Now go out there and share your badassery. And don't forget, make it a great day. Take care. Bye-bye. Whoop, whoop.
Thank you for listening to RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. If you need more badassery, you can follow Jen Josie by visiting therealjenjosie.com or become a member of RAIN by registering on rainmastermind.com.